Welcome to episode 33 of Cyclops is Waiting for Me, an X-Men the Animated Series weekly recap podcast. I'm Rod, and for the first time in several weeks, we have a backup, including the other two episodes we recorded that I forgot to turn this on.
I'm JC, and I am incredibly confident. Cyclops is Waiting for Me is our weekly podcast series. We're going back and watching every single episode of the original 1992 X-Men the Animated Series and their original intended script order, building up to the release of X-Men 97, coming to Disney Plus in fall of 2023. And for those of you who are wondering how we determine the order of these episodes, we utilize an order that is listed in Previously on X-Men, the Making of an Animated Series by the lead showrunner Eric Lewald, which is also available for reference on Wikipedia.
And some quick reminders, we're a recap show about a series that came out 28 years ago. There will be spoilers. If you don't want spoiled for you, pause the podcast, watch the episode, and come back. We'll do our best to avoid mentioning anything about future episodes we haven't covered yet. Although, considering you're halfway through a 4-part series, hopefully you've just watched the 4 parts.
It'd be really, really weird if somebody watched a part and then came back. I mean, unless somebody like our friend Joe Russo is watching one episode per week to just stay in line with our show.
Yeah.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe. What's up? We're currently not sponsored or affiliated with Disney or Disney Plus in any way. I don't know. What's the conglomerate these days? Like Vought Plus streaming or something?
Oh, we could get sponsored by Vought Plus.
There you go. Did you see Vought Plus's Twitter account took a stab at WB?
No, but now I'm going to.
They posted, I'm going to just look it up. I also retweeted it, and also by the time you hear this will be like several weeks behind. But they posted like Vought Plus Christian, blah, or whatever, it's conglomerated into one thing. Or they basically took the WB announcement and then made fun of it with all the Vought streaming services.
Very nice. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And while you're on those favorite podcast services, make sure to give us a rating, preferably a good one.
I was going to say, it's preferably one that'll help us.
And finally, if you can't tell by Rod's reference to Vought Plus and how long ago that Twitter post must have gone live, we record these episodes in batches. We're going to have to figure out some system for when the actual show goes live. And we have a full year before we have to worry about that, though.
That may end up being a remote thing. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, Rod is not going to drive to my house every week. So if we're reacting to news or Twitter jokes, we might be a few weeks behind.
We will be. Anyway, hey, how is She-Hulk, by the way? I'm trying to.
That will absolutely yes, we will be 4 episodes deep by this point.
Something, yeah. Hopefully it's going well, future listeners and Rod and John. Anyway, now onto the show.
We're not reviewing She-Hulk, Rod. We don't need to worry if it's going well. As fans, we hope it's going well, but we don't have to worry about it.
Now onto the show. Today we're going to be talking about Season 3, Episode 16, titled The Dark Phoenix, Part 3, The Dark Phoenix. I copy
and pasted it. It's accurate.
It's funny because I remember seeing that on the screen too, and I was like, oh, so now we're finally at The Dark Phoenix. Anyway.
She only said it at the tail end of the last episode.
It aired November 19th, 1994, and currently sits at an 8.2 star rating on IMDb. I like how they're getting higher, like the ratings.
Well, I hate to disappoint you.
Spoilers for next episode.
I mean, it's also an 8.2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a plateau. It's not a dip.
Oh, nice. Okay. That makes sense, though.
It's not a mojo.
Anyway, so the recap for this episode, I just thought the only thing that was kind of funny was there was this scene that they recapped from the last episode, but in this version of it, they did like a real fire overlay on Jean's face, but it's like not overlay, actually. It was like underlay. Like it was like her skin was replaced by real fire. It was weird.
So what you're going to tell me is when we're binging these shows and readying for this, I need to actually start paying attention to the recaps?
I don't know necessarily. I think it's fun. I just noticed it because I half pay attention to them too at the beginning.
I mean, I literally skip to the end of the intro song at this point. So,
but I just saw in the corner of my eye, I was like, is that fire under her face? Okay, sure. Anyway.
Or is it over her face?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I don't know how animation works.
Maybe it's Maybelline. Anyway, this episode picks up right where it left off from the last episode. Phoenix is on the roof, freaking out.
The appropriate phrase is losing its shit.
Yeah. And the X-Men do make their way up to the roof to catch up with Scott. Questionable why, because he's been kind of a douchebag up to this point. But
okay. I know it's a very, very, very easy joke for us to bash on Scott. He hasn't actually been a douchebag during this last 6 hours of his real time.
I could see that. Yeah, maybe the stuff with Dazzler he could have handled better, but he wasn't actively trying to be.
He didn't kiss her. He did fuck up by not pushing her back.
Exactly. Anyway, Phoenix is upset with the X-Men because they, quote, in her words, want her to return to the cold nothingness of space, which is, fair. It's kind of like in Aladdin, like with the genie. It's like, you want me to go back into this Lamp?
Counterpoint. She's literally made of fire, so how does she know how cold it is?
Right? Or is it figurative? It's just like the fire of love.
I mean, she could have been like, it's boring there. I would accept that.
Yes. But now that she's experienced human emotions like love, or better for her, hate, she doesn't
definitely gets a fucking violence boner, no doubt.
Violence boner. That's a metal band name.
I'm not going to Google that. Nor should you.
Yeah. She says that there is a power greater than good or evil, and that's in creation and destruction. A little side note, you notice something different about Beast in this shot?
Yeah. So, they're trying to address Jean, and the Phoenix is like pushing back of like, no, you only get to talk to Phoenix. Like, there's no Jean anymore. There's only Zool. But you see the team, and Beast actually has the Shi'ar backpack on again, like the one that he was wearing on the Apocalypse shit. So I guess he ran out the front door, got it from the bushes, and then went up to the roof.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed too, the animation of him was like a lot more like slender and upright and stuff. So I don't know if it was like, maybe it's a recycling thing from other anime. I don't know.
Maybe he's more slender when he wears the backpack.
There you go. Shi'ar tech. It's amazing.
Now when I go to, damn it, Rod, now the next comic book show I go to, I'm just going to go searching through the booths that has animation cells, and I'm just going to be searching for Beast wearing backpack cells.
To see if they just recycle their
is he factually skinnier when wearing it, and I'll like be comparing cells, and the guy's gonna be like, I could do both of those for $85, and I'm like, I don't want either of these, sir. I'm comparing notes.
Yeah.
And I just take a picture with my phone and run off.
Anyway, so Scott's calling for Jean, and Jean breaks through for just a second. She begs Scott for help and not to leave her, and then the Phoenix takes over and throws them all off the roof.
People kind of got like yeeted in groups. It was good because Rogue ends up catching Gambit, and then Wolverine just continues to fly past into the lake.
And he just says ducks out of nowhere, where in my head canon, I would like to think it's because he actually said fuck, because it's a kid's show and he's heading towards the lake. He just says ducks.
And then he says he hates ducks.
Yeah.
Which I don't recall that being an aspect of Wolverine's character, but I think we accept it.
I think it's another moment where like Wolverine's giving a lot of JC energy, because I can just imagine you get thrown to a lake and you're like, I hate ducks.
I hate ducks. I hate fish. I hate water. I hate lakes. Yeah, I can go on. Yeah. There's definitely some JC energy in Wolverine. And we also see Gambit is kind of like, hey, I noticed how you caught me and not Wolverine. And then she just drops him into the lake.
Yeah, he can't stop flirting, even in imminent danger. But he can't go to that nightclub anymore with Dazzler, because remember, we decided that he got kicked out for some reason.
In our personal canon, he has been banned from that club.
Yeah. So after they kind of regroup, after getting yeeted in all directions,
Storm catches Beast, and then Beast like catches Cyclops by the ankle or something like that. Yeah,
teamwork.
Yeah, they're actually doing pretty good against a cosmic entity right now.
Right. I'm going to guess it's not programmed into the Danger Room's database, so they're just winging it.
They didn't have time to do a software update between the Phoenix introduction to the Dark Phoenix saga. There was only 5 stories in between. So.
Yeah, and they kind of regroup and talk about it, and they figure out that the reason the Phoenix has gone haywire is because it has experienced new emotions through Jean's physical manifestation and stuff. And Phoenix returns and tries to finish them off.
Yeah, tries to destroy everything. And then we get an awesome transition effect. I'd imagine this was like one of the coming back from commercial moments where it's kind of a reverse fire, where it starts out like it's blackness, and then the fire brings everything like back into focus.
It wouldn't be hilarious for the animators, but it'd be hilarious story-wise if we find out like the actual cells just like burnt and they just kept it. You know,
Rod, I don't think that's how animation works, sir.
Well, no, I mean, like, you know how you take photos of each cell and stuff? It'd be funny if, like, they were, like, I guess it wouldn't be videographing, it'd be photographing, but if they, like, it got so hot it burned. I don't know. I'm making up a bunch of stuff in my head that didn't happen.
That's not how animation works, Rod.
Is why I'm not an animator.
But essentially, they're all defending themselves. So we see a few failed attempts from the team. Storm tries to use hurricane powers against her, fails. Scott tries to hit Jean with an optic blast, that fails. And again, it's just so dismissive, because this is now like Phoenix Unleashed kind of scenario from the Dark Phoenix. And it's like, you are just really a source of annoyance and frustration. And I mean, I get it that it's this all-powerful being. That's got to sting, man. Like being like, you're not denting me. You're just bothering me.
Yeah. And of course, the natural solution would be Rogue's like, tree will work. So she tries to swing a tree at the Phoenix. And Phoenix, I don't think I knew this was one of her powers. It's kind of like Cersei in Eternals. She's able to like turn the material into something else.
Yeah, it was like a Mogrification?
Not sure. One of those words.
I think transmogrification is the right word. She uses alchemy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, alchemy without actual alchemy, but it essentially turns it into this giant tree, which my millennial ass is like, I wonder how much that tree is worth now.
Yeah.
Because she turns it into gold. It is absolutely meant to be drawn as gold.
Yeah, because it even sparkles a little bit later.
But apparently a tree that is the density of a tree and then turns into gold gets way heavier as gold.
Right.
So Rogue crashes into the ground with it.
And Phoenix, in this whole battle, has said a couple times different, both ends of the spectrum. She's like, why do I enjoy so much when they fight back so hard? And then counter to that later, she's like, why does my pleasure decrease when they get weaker? So she's really liking the challenge. Right.
And I mean, I don't know if necessarily you could consider it a trope, but I was reading a recent Power Rangers comic where the villain is essentially like, oh, it's not good if we just take them out without a hunt. We have to find them. We don't want them to just surrender and accept death. I want to hunt them down and kill them. Very Kraven the Hunter style.
Yeah, it's like a sport.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. And also, this is probably one of the first times the Phoenix Force has had a little bit of a challenge, I would presume.
I would say at the start of the fight, but now I think as the Phoenix has completely, 95% taken over for Jean, it's it's almost becoming stronger because it's taking less and less effort to stop people.
Yeah.
The fighting continues. Rogue attempts to fly up and drain the Phoenix and just gets flicked off. It's you didn't even have a shot.
Which, when she initially tried to go for it, I was like, that is a terrifying prospect. Because the same thing about when she tried to absorb Storm's powers and stuff. So if Jean can't control it, what do you think you're going to do with this?
Yeah, this is going to end very, very badly for you.
So Phoenix asks Scott why he cares so much about this body.
Yeah. Yeah, specifically this body, and obviously that is not meant to be in a sexual way or anything like that, but it was the Phoenix doesn't understand humanity still, so it's what is it about this bag of flesh that you care about?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of, I meant to say this before too, but Phoenix kind of has this Dr. Manhattan sensibility where it's none of this matters. Why do you guys care so much?
Right. And that's kind of one of the larger things with the cosmic entities, multiversal beings, where it's none of this matters on a cosmic scale. Yeah. So why do you give a shit? And Scott gives the answer that is the most obvious, which is, I love her. And then the Phoenix gives the best response possible. Yeah, I don't understand what that means. That's an unacceptable answer.
So Jean does come through a little bit, probably because she heard, that Scott loves her.
Well, considering the response was not, I know, and it was, I will always love you back, then I would say that she heard it.
And in this little kerfuffle, or because it was more than a kerfuffle, mega kerfuffle, Scott's visor gets knocked off. And so when Jean does come through, she puts the visor back on him and kisses him. And then she says she'll always love him too. Just in time for Phoenix to come back.
Yeah, there's a lot of body swap horror going on with this one. And the Phoenix just becomes a massive blast in the middle of Central Park. And then we get cameos.
I actually knew all these this time, but these are pretty easy.
If we had recorded this 3 months ago, I don't know if you would have gotten the last one.
I did know him.
Well,
I wouldn't have known his name.
Okay, so the cameos we got is Doctor Strange, but did you notice the Easter egg in the shot?
No.
So in the shot, if you actually look at and pause it and look at the books, you had Brenner and Ditko.
Okay.
So
Ditko, obviously, I know.
Steve Ditko, one of the creators of Spider-Man. Brenner had been a member of the Marvel staff for years and actually was head of character design on this show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So it's like the Book of Vishanti and Darkhold.
I'm not going to unpack that. I am good on that one.
We haven't seen Thor in the show yet, right?
No, we did not.
This is the first
we did
time.
not see Thor. He was not in that group that was saving the world when everything was blowing up in space and on the sun.
That was really cool to see, even for a little second.
It also lit up Mjolnir too.
Oh, I didn't notice that little thing.
And then in
The
space,
Watcher.
What is the Watcher's name?
So I know now is Uatu.
Right.
But, so is it always Uatu if it comes to Earth, I guess? Is that?
So here's the concession. There is an Uatu in each of the dimensions of the multiverse.
Oh.
But I think we make the assumption that this at the time is being treated same as 616 comic book continuity. So he's probably another Uatu.
Okay, gotcha. Well, because I know, So I didn't know Uatu's name, I don't think, until the What If series. But I did know about the Watcher before, especially because the Watchers appeared in the other MCU movies and stuff.
Yeah, and we got the confirmation that Stan was a Watcher.
Yeah, right. But I didn't know, since there's other Watchers, if this was necessarily a specific Uatu one. But I guess it makes sense because it has to do with Earth.
Yeah, and then the Phoenix shoots into space, and then we get the fourth cameo.
And I only knew this because of a movie that came out a month ago.
Which is exactly what I mean of like, I think you would have gotten Watcher.
Oh.
But I'm saying I don't think you would have known Eternity.
I thought you meant Watcher. Okay.
No,
Gotcha.
I knew you knew enough that you would have known Watcher.
Okay.
I don't think until Love and Thunder came out, I don't think most general fans knew who Eternity was.
Yeah, no, I didn't know who Eternity was. I think I'd seen the reference like in writing before, but I thought I didn't.
You thought it was the concept of Eternity, not an actual being?
I think in general in Marvel, I assume when they say stuff like that, it's going to be some sort of like being thing, but I don't think I had associated the depiction.
Like when Deadpool wants to have sex with Death, it is a woman version of Death, not just bang dead things.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So I didn't know what Eternity looked like until Love and Thunder, and then I learned after Love and Thunder that was a really comic accurate depiction.
It was very Kirby-esque.
Yeah.
So.
Even though the depiction is like a little bit different than like Love and Thunder and the other comic things, it's like there's like the design with like the half face and then the galaxy thing stuff. It was the little hallmarks were there, so it had just appeared for literally half a second in that frame, but it was still like recognizable. It was either just an Easter egg to throw in for fun, or maybe like we'll play in later, or was planned on being played in later, that Eternity had seen this happen.
I interpreted it as this is something of epic proportion. So you have the Sorcerer Supreme, you have the child of you have a literal god, and then you have the Watcher who is all powerful but can't do anything, and then you have the concept of Eternity, which Eternity being involved just raises it from a cosmic stakes perspective.
I didn't even think about that. That makes sense. Like every cameo escalated.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have human with power, baby god, cosmic entity, possibly strongest cosmic entity.
Yeah.
And they're all seeing the thing that could destroy everything.
That makes sense now. Yeah. Okay.
And then pops into a little wormhole. And the only thing that was a little confusing from an animation perspective is the planets seemed very close together. So it was like, oh, are we past Saturn or are we in like multiple galaxies beyond at that point? But regardless, a wormhole pops up and the Phoenix goes into further space.
To that point, though, I think that's kind of like an animation trope, right? That everything's much closer, and they make fun of that in Love and Thunder as well. It's not really a spoiler, but maybe spoiler if you haven't seen Love and Thunder.
No, it's not.
There's like this planet, and like they're flying towards it. And in any other movie or animation thing, you're like, oh yeah, so in an hour we'll be there, and they just literally run into it because it's like right there and it's flat,
and it's kind of a small rock.
Yeah. So that's why I imagine this universe is like, oh yeah, the Phoenix can literally just like, without stretching, just reach one arm to Saturn, one arm to the black hole, just bring them together, you know? But yeah, so then we cut to something we haven't seen at all in this 4-part series yet, is a Shi'ar ship. And it's not any of the Shi'ar that we know.
That is a lie, and you know it, sir. We saw Shi'ar ships in the flashbacks of the origin.
Oh, that's true.
Sorry, I just had to do that to be a joke.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
You know, even though I didn't skip it in person, I mentally checked out when Emma Frost was recapping that. Because I know this.
But we see the inside of a Shi'ar ship, and they make a point of saying that they're mapping out a dead star system.
Yeah.
Do you know the significance of that in particular?
Other than it's just uninhabited?
So, why is it significant that they chose to do that?
I don't know.
So in the original comic for the Dark Phoenix, this star system that Phoenix plunges into the sun as a recharge, essentially, because it's being born again. How do you, as a cosmic entity, get more power? You suck the life out of the suns. Suck the life out of the sun causes it to go supernova, right? Conceptually.
Yeah.
In the comic, the star system that is destroyed has 5 billion living beings within its system. So they couldn't do that, it being, a kid's cartoon.
Yeah.
But they needed to add extra emphasis to it, because if people knew the source material and they didn't clarify that, then they might have been blamed for like, oh, you just killed, in theory, 5 billion people. So that's why they kept emphasizing.
I guess that's what I meant. It was that they were trying to say that like, oh, nobody died.
Yes.
Like in this. Although it's questionable how Shi'ar's ship survived, but
well,
I guess it was out of range.
It looked like they were retreating to get out of whatever that blast radius was, and then as it destroys the star system, the Phoenix takes off, essentially takes out the wing of the ship. And also in the comic version of this story, the Phoenix also ends up destroying the ship as well, killing all the crew and such. So it adds a little bit further credence as to why the Shi'ar are so involved, because it's almost also an unintentional act of war, because it also killed the ship and its soldiers, etc. So.
And an innocent ship that wasn't in war.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was still a ship that was plotting a star system and such. But
so this ship contacts Lilandra, and Lilandra tells Gladiator to ready the Imperial Star Cruiser.
So one last comment about the ship. I just want to point out, as the ship is taking damage and it's sending out its distress beacon and such, the fire extinguishers were literally like Earth fire extinguishers, and that made me laugh.
I would like to think in my headcanon that the Shi'ar came in contact with Earth and
they
humans.
never had those?
Yeah, and the one piece of technology that they absorbed from Earth culture was fire extinguishers.
So Beast got the backpack that lets him translate Shi'ar like Google Glass, and they took fire extinguishers.
Yeah. And the old kind that still poisons you when you use it. It's great, especially in outer space. Anyway, so we move over to the X Mansion.
It was a good transition.
Yeah.
Right? I know I killed the transition when I point out that it was a good transition, but good transition.
Thank you. And Xavier is emphasizing that Jean no longer exists. It's
specific. He's afraid that Jean no longer. Yeah. So it's not 100% confirmed, but it's like, yeah, it's probably the case.
Yeah. And he's been inside her head. So it's like, yeah, she's not there anymore. And Scott says they can't stop trying to save her as long as Jean's body's still alive. And Xavier is just like, we got to be honest with ourselves about the depth of the problem. And I was like, wow, that is a really diplomatic, harsh statement.
and they also point out, like, they can't force the Phoenix out of Jean. Like, they essentially need to make the Phoenix agree that it has to leave Jean's body. And it's like, after the whole, like, you know, coldness and emptiness of space, I don't think that thing is going to agree to leave, at least without popping into another body.
At that point, they get interrupted because Scott says he senses Jean is coming back.
Good old psychic rapport.
Right.
Yeah.
And she is flying back.
She is. Just destroying a obviously uninhabited solar system.
And Wolverine points out that, you know, Phoenix can just melt anything with her mind. Is it mind? Consciousness?
Power. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. And it's if it has the ability to do it, why hasn't it? Yeah. And the conclusion is like, well, Jean must have some small measure of control that prevents it from killing them all.
Yeah, and so Scott and Beast figure out, oh yeah, so she's still in there a little bit. So I guess that kind of squashes Xavier's like, she's not there anymore. And so Beast suggests that they come up with a mnemonic scrambler.
Yeah.
To kind of not mess her up, but...
Oh no, it's to mess her up. the whole concept behind it is essentially they need to scramble her thoughts so dramatically that she can't have a coherent thought, with the concept of that being like, oh, if there's no coherent thought, then the Phoenix is going to jump out, because without coherent thought, you can't experience emotion, which I don't know if that's true, but sure.
Yeah. And so Gambit shows up with shots. The end. Anyway.
No shots taken. When they're going through this thought process and planning process, Xavier starts to feel the tinge of guilt, realizing that when Jean came back, him and Moira were just essentially rebuilding Jean's mind. And while that seems like something that is a good thing to do, I mean, if I went through this shit, I would want my mind rebuilt. But it's like, oh no. Instead, it made her the perfect host for the Phoenix because the mind of Jean was being made stronger.
I took it too that since they were making Jean relive so much of the various emotions and stuff, and that's probably part of it, is making the Phoenix like hungry for all that stuff, and especially the trauma, which is probably where the dark and hateful part came in.
Yeah.
This is like a little Marvel tangent, but like I love the scene in Shang-Chi where Katie, Awkwafina's character, she makes a comment, and then the third act of the movie, it's like, I always knew there was something, but I never pried. It's like, that's a real G. It's a real friend, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a lesson that Xavier and Moira learn here. Like, maybe we shouldn't pry, you know? And,
I was waiting to see how you were going to turn that back, but no, you nailed it. It was like, we went too far. We had all the best intentions, but it ended up blowing up in their faces.
And it's kind of to the, I'm not a mental health expert, but I've been through some of the process.
Better Health, if you want to sponsor us, we are open.
But I've been through some of the processes, and you know, one of the things is like, for most cases, people will talk about it when they're ready, and I think that is something they at least wanted to touch on, even at a surface level. Here is like, yeah, we forced this woman to do too much, too fast, and it's kind of made all of this worse.
Maybe, just maybe, Scott shouldn't have gone to the club to meet up with Dazzler.
Right, that's part of it.
It's been a hell of a 24-hour period.
Yeah, that's another thing we need to point out. This has all been like in a day.
Actually, this still might be the same night.
Right.
Yeah. Like, because we haven't had a time where, like, I don't know, maybe when Jean went into space and destroyed the star system, but all the stuff between Dazzler seeing the makeout at the club, the fight at the the inner circle, the Circle Club, and this might all just be, this might be 4 a.m. right now.
Yeah. And then we kind of cut to the montage of creating the mnemonic scrambler beast.
which had 2 moments in it, one that I loved and one that I hated.
So I did notice a little Easter egg. Beast has a photo of Carly on his computer,
Which was the one I loved.
Okay.
Because good for Beast, and I'm glad that that's still a thing for him and it's in his heart.
Was the 3D printer the part you hated?
No, I was neutral to the 3D printer.
Okay.
His mouse was on the left.
I didn't even register that.
So
he's
literally,
left-handed.
Dude, the mouse on the left. I'm like, no, that's not Beast.
That's a brutal character.
Yep. I refuse.
He's in canon left-handed.
Yep. I didn't actually hate it. It just stood out to me. It was like it was a very obvious design choice that it went there. So let's do the good old Google.
Or
is Beast left-handed?
Well, you know what I was gonna say, or someone messed up and flipped the
I love
cell.
is Mr. Beast left-handed as the autocomplete. There is nothing canonical that tells me that he's left-handed, so I call bullshit.
Okay. I was gonna say maybe they flipped the cell, but no, Carly's name was written not reversed, so in that image, whatever.
Yep.
Anyway, so this Magic 3D printer in the 90s fully printed a headband that's a mnemonic scrambler with all the technology and everything in it. It's amazing.
X-Men predicted 3D printers.
There you go. Meanwhile, in 2022, people can't get the filaments unstuck. So,
But I did see advertised recently a metal 3D printer.
ooh, have you seen the food ones? I think they're far from being like approved yet.
It's going to be like all soy and the things I don't eat, so
No,
it's
no,
fine.
they were fungus.
That's somehow worse.
Anyway,
So he gets the fry your brain hat, and then he immediately asks if anybody wants to be a volunteer.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like no, I'm good, dude.
I get that you wouldn't want to be a volunteer, but I also think it's very important to test that before you go against like a cosmic being.
Wake up Jubilee and put her to use.
There you go.
Fry the teenager's brain.
But TV and video games are already doing that anyway.
They don't think Jubilee has a coherent thought in her head already.
Because it's chili fries, right? So in the Tower of the X Mansion, Cyclops is up there. I don't know, whatever. He's kind of clear his head or whatever. And he senses that Jean is near, but not where necessarily. And so we catch up with Jean.
She's coming back.
Yeah. Well, I guess to him it is near because she's back on Earth now.
Or at least our solar system.
Yeah. And we catch up with Jean, and she's going to what we assume
He
is her
has
childhood home.
space GPS.
There you go. Space GPS. Telekinetic space GPS. So Jean goes back to her childhood bedroom, we assume, because we see a bunch of like a kid's room set up and stuff.
Yeah, she goes into the house, and you get the impression it is her family's home because she says, "Mom, Dad, I'm home." She sees her cat. The cat's name is
Prometheus.
Which means nothing.
Yeah.
Just for clarity, we looked it up. Prometheus has 1 episode. According to fandom, is still alive. So good for Prometheus. It's a 30-year-old cat.
Yeah, because and he's a black cat. I think black cats are awesome. And
You're biased.
Yeah. And he hisses probably because he's like, there's some dark thing inside there that I won't be part of. And that's why he's still alive, because he left that house.
Yeah. If this was like the movies, that cat would not have survived. She goes up into her room. There's a band poster, which I looked at and I couldn't get the reference. It was called the Flat Bills, which that was, if that's a joke or a pun, I missed it. Maybe it's another duck reference. Who knows?
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Someone on the staff hates ducks.
But did you notice the stuffed doll that she was hugging?
It was like a Cyclops. Oh,
Yeah.
God, my God. Okay, this is not even staged. As I was saying it, jeez. Okay. I watched this episode twice in preparation for this, and I didn't put that together until I said it out loud. She grabs a Cyclops doll. Okay.
I don't want to do a video podcast because I don't want to edit it, but there are some moments that I really wish I had a hidden camera set up, because the genuine change in Rod's face as it clicked was so pure. It was good. It was good, Rod. It's okay.
Okay, so she's always kind of had a thing for Cyclops is.
Not even that. I just needed you to say it out loud.
All right. Well, she dances around the room like a little girl.
Yep.
And she's basically, the whole time she's in a childlike state.
Yeah, there's like a higher pitch to her voice. It's like, we've had multiple versions of Jean. You had regular Jean, you have Phoenix / Dark Phoenix Jean, you have under Mastermind's control. And here she's in like this creepily innocent childlike state. Mm-hmm. And like, a car pulls up and she says daddy. So it doesn't sound like, a woman in her 20s is what we're assuming the age of the majority of these characters, mid-20s, late 20s, would address their father. Even just the tone of her voice is different. Mm-hmm. So mentally, she has fucking cracked at this point.
Yeah, she's reverted to like her childhood self.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and like you said, she said daddy's home, and she runs downstairs. At that moment, I was like, oh my God, they're all going to die. But she runs past what we see as the X-Men with her family.
Yeah, so you see that Xavier has like a mental shield up that was basically protecting the family. As far as we were able to find in doing our research, that is actually Jean's family. So their names are John, Elaine, and Sarah Gray.
Can you imagine getting woken up in like whatever hour of night that was and being told like, okay, so just trust us.
You're going to see your daughter acting weird as fuck.
Yeah.
And we need you to not say a word.
Yeah, she's going to be in spandex in different color than you saw her last, and she might be on fire. So just try not to flinch.
She's probably going to be. But they didn't protect the cat.
Yeah, right. Well, the cat can take care of himself.
As that happens, you see Gambit kind of like tailing her, running outside.
Mm-hmm. And puts the mnemonic scrambler.
So she's running up to the car, and the car starts to back out. And as she's distracted by the car leaving, that's when Gambit drops the scrambler on her.
And we see this like mist over everything. So I'm kind of assuming that's maybe part of Storm's doing, is like kind of creating like a little bit of a ambiance.
Yes, because I think it's to like help disguise like not being able to see who's in the car and stuff like that. And then later, as stuff hits the fan, like Storm actually kind of lets up on it. I think there was like a indication that she was the one who was making the fog.
Yeah.
It wasn't just morning dew, in Westchester. But yeah, unfortunately, she immediately throws Gambit, which seems to be a trend of the episode, and then just starts overloading the circuits of the scrambler. It starts like sparking in Beast's hand. Like even the control is overloading at this point.
Because they didn't get to test it on Jubilee.
Maybe they did.
Yeah, that's what broke it.
No. Go with me on this. Maybe they did, and there were no coherent thoughts coming out of Jubilee, so they said, yes, it works. There were no coherent thoughts for it to start picking up on.
Yeah, it's just like, why is it just a bunch of like montages of long shot, man? Like, this is weird. Anyway, as Phoenix is overloading the scrambler, Wolverine tackles her, and Jean comes to for a second. Says, this is really harsh. Says if he truly loves her, that he's gonna do it, and we all know that means kill her, and he can't.
So the interesting part for me here is in other media, Wolverine has killed Jean.
Oh, jeez.
So, spoiler for a 20-year-old movie, X-Men: The Last Stand.
Mm-hmm. You don't need to see it anyway.
No, God, no. He is the one who puts Jean out of her misery and actually kills her as the Phoenix. In the comics, there is also the well-known Grant Morrison run. Grant Morrison is the run where they literally switch to like black and yellow leather as like the main visual for it and stuff like that. It's an amazing run. In that series, Wolverine also has to take out Jean, and this is all in canon. This isn't like alternate realities or anything like that. He literally has to take out Jean and put her down because the Phoenix is taking over again.
And that all kind of tracks too, because he's probably emotionally, in a place to get close to her. It also has like the kind of the power and the resilience to like be able to do something.
Right. And if you also look at him from like a character arc perspective, it's acknowledged that he has done some messed up stuff in the past. Like, he was fighting in the not Vietnam War or whatever it was in this timeline. Like, he was a soldier. He was on the task force with Maverick and Sabretooth. They don't point blank say it, but he's killed people.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in our mind that in the canon of this world, even if it's not said because it's a kid's show, Wolverine has killed people because he had to do it.
Yeah. Also, if you have like knives on your hands, it's probably happened.
Yeah. Even just by accident. Yeah. He almost killed Heather from Alpha Flight just because.
Yeah, just for funsies.
Yeah.
Anyway, Phoenix comes to because he, waited too long and blasts him away, and then pulls the scrambler off and melts it in her hand, which again is like terrifying, like, all right, your best effort is not even like,
it sucks right now.
it's a minor annoyance at best.
And essentially it's like, well, now you get to play on my terms, and instantly like binds all of the X-Men.
Mm-hmm. And we get the sense that, well, she's getting ready to melt them. Remember that thing? And then we find out that Scott was actually the one in the car. So he gets out. Why he waited to this very moment to be dramatic, maybe? He gets out and starts talking to Jean.
We get Love. I feel like this episode, Love is interchangeable with family in Fast and Furious.
Yeah. You don't need logic when you got family. And Jean comes through because it's Scott, and Xavier attacks her mind in that moment.
Yeah, in the moment of vulnerability. I don't want to call it weakness, but vulnerability. Yeah. Xavier takes a mind blast, and it stops her for like a half second. And he says, we have to destroy what's inside of her. And then immediately she regains power as the Phoenix and just decimates Charles's floating wheelchair.
Yeah, I love it because in my notes I said like Xavier says they must destroy her before she woke up. I didn't even get to like type the sentence.
Your stream of consciousness notes are amazing to me. Phoenix is like kind of standing over Charles, and it's like, well, didn't you once say that the greatest joy for a teacher is to be surpassed by the student?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And to that, Xavier responds by going into the mind of Jean / Phoenix at that point.
Like, all right, you would call this? Let's have our Morpheus fight.
Yeah. He kind of is kind of pulling a little bit of a Hal Jordan where it's all about like willpower. And it's like, my will is going to prevail. And then he grows to like, not quite kaiju size, but he gets pretty damn gigantic.
And he has like a kind of like Spartan-esque inspired armor that he made for himself.
Right. So that is actually in the astral plane. It's called the Entity. And it first appeared in the comics as something that a possessed version of Charles was wearing, as opposed to in this version, it's shown in a heroic style. But yeah, it was like Spartan Roman gladiatorial style armor. I think that was one of the things that in the HeroClix unboxing that Matt was actually referring to when we were looking at what some of the giant figures could be. We were trying to figure out if that was the one, which, by the way, that should be live right now on our YouTube channel. We had Matt Robb join us, and we did an unboxing of the Dark Phoenix Saga HeroClix.
Yeah, those were cool.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot to put the promos at the beginnings of the other episodes.
Okay. Well, surprise.
Now you know it's there.
Yeah. Also, I think we have a couple of shorts and reels and TikToks too. Me and John opening up some cards. Man, it's been a while back.
No, those were Dice Masters.
Dice Masters. It's been so long, I don't even remember how that went, but I still have them. So.
I was going to say, you have it on your phone, so you better know how it went.
So I just don't remember, but we'll all be surprised together when we rewatch this, because I won't remember to post them until I listen to this again. So Xavier in this battle is trying to bind the Phoenix.
Yes.
But it's a bit of a struggle, as we've seen before.
I mean, it's a cosmic entity. I would hope it wouldn't be easy.
But he does manage to get Phoenix / Jean into like a place where Jean's part of that can escape, because you see like...
Yeah, you start to see the strength of the Phoenix, where it's talking about, how conceited humans are, how arrogant they are. Xavier keeps pleading to Jean to help him bind the Phoenix. And when that happens, he's actually able to literally put the Phoenix in like a cocoon of dirt.
Something,
yeah.
Mind dirt.
And Jean's spirit pops out in this astral form, and then they jump back into the real world, and Jean is no longer in the red Dark Phoenix death colors. She's in the green and gold. So.
Yeah. So, she's good now. So Xavier says that the Phoenix is bound for now. He really highlights that for now.
Right. But you do also get the moment between Cyclops and Jean where it's High Four Eyes, which still bothers me because it's literally named Cyclops, and you just hugged the doll. And then he says, "Hi yourself, Tiger." And that only bothers me because in Marvel Comics, Tiger is Mary Jane talking to Peter Parker. Nobody else gets to say Tiger.
So it was just like a hey pal thing from like the 90s.
I mean, it's definitely them flirting as best Scott can do it.
And then, after that weird exchange, they make out, and the Shi'ar immediately show up. Lilandra gets out, and Xavier's like, "Why didn't you telepathically let me know you were coming?" And she just ignores him.
He seems super thirsty when he asks that.
Right?
Yeah.
And she says that Phoenix is a force that must be destroyed. And then we get giggling children for the Saban end card.
The Saban end card is so awkward at times like this.
Yeah. He's like, "She must be destroyed."
You doing that is somehow creepier than the children's voices. Never do that again.
It's on the internet. It'll live forever now.
Oh, God. It is on the internet. We think that the X-Men have finally gotten a little bit of like reprieve from the night of hell that is the Dark Phoenix night. And then it's like, nope, now this intergalactic society wants the Phoenix dead.
This moment I really liked because, like I said, we knew it was a 4-part series, but for like a second I was like, oh, is this where it ends?
No.
Yeah, and then they threw enough in. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. It's not just started, but this is not over yet.
Yeah. So just some additional notes about the episode. The writer, Larry Parr, also wrote 1988's Pride of the X-Men.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
man. So you have this guy who wrote the failed pilot who ends up writing one of the best episodes of the animated series.
You know, I will say it's been a long time since I've watched Pride of the X-Men. I don't necessarily want to say that the story is what did it in. The story probably actually kind of checks out because it's very similar to other X-Men stories where there's always some young mutant that is our eyes going into this wild world.
Right.
And some of the action was good. And the animation didn't look that bad. I think it was like the characters.
It was just the fact that you hate Kitty Pryde and you are offended by all Australians.
Right, there you go.
Good. That will now live on the internet for forever.
But I think it was just like the characters, they weren't like, it's interesting to say.
Let's save that for when I can actually watch it and comment on it with you. So,
but I think this specifically with the animated series that we did get shows how as much times we take jabs at the characters here and their weird mannerisms and stuff, they are like much more sophisticated than in that other thing and stuff. So I think that's why that failed. And then this one is like lived on in all eternity.
And I do think you kind of, if you're doing an adaptation and you're keeping it, you're tied to the tone of the source material, you have a better shot of getting it right. Whereas if you look at, the 2 movies that have had it, the tone is all wrong, which is why the movies have flopped.
In case you've been living under a rock, they've tried to do Dark Phoenix twice. The same guy.
Yeah.
Dark Phoenix twice. And oh my God, it got worse somehow. Like I always joke about, but I kind of think it's true. You can see the relief on Jennifer's face when Mystique dies.
Because she got to leave the shot.
Yeah,
she's like, I don't need to be here anymore.
She was like, I am freed from this property.
She's like, I got my check, I get my royalties, and I'm out.
Yeah.
And then only other note I have, and this is a comic specific one, at the time in the Dark Phoenix saga in X-Men, Beast was actually not an active member of the X-Men team. He's involved in the story moments because it's very focused on, the original core group as much as possible and those who have the strongest relationships with Jean. He was actually an Avenger at that point. He appears in the book, coming back to help, but all the stuff with Hellfire Club and that leading up to this, he doesn't show up until this, planning how to deal with Jean when she's returning from destroying the planet.
I was surprised. I never knew the Beast was in the Avengers. That's amazing.
I love just the total, like, I take certain things for granted because I've been reading comics for, 35 of my 39 years on this planet. And then it's like, oh, I say things and Rod's like, wait, that's a thing?
Yeah, that's amazing though. It's kind of cool. I love that, and also love that we're getting closer and closer to a world where those crossovers can happen in the cinematic version for us.
Well, the one thing that can happen is Beast was very close with Wonder Man, who we have not gotten Wonder Man formally in the MCU yet. So that was like his best buddy from the Avengers. So that can still happen. It's not like he was tight with one of the guys who retired.
Yeah. I will co-sign if Kelsey Grammer ever wants to come back as Beast. I thought he did a great job and that was a great casting. I'm not saying that he wants to come back, but
I feel like he was old in Cheers.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if he physically could.
You know what's funny about Cheers? We are older than the people in Cheers were in that show.
Shut up, Rod. End the show, Rod.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, thanks for joining us. If you have any thoughts, make sure to drop them into the comments for either the YouTube upload or official Instagram post about this episode. If you like what you heard, we'd appreciate a rating on the podcast app of your choosing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. Actually, speaking of being old, I think by the time this episode gets posted, I'll be 40. That's weird.